to Fresh Face Comics, the comic book podcast where a lifelong comic book reader guides his friends through the world of comics for the first time. My name is Joey Morgan, the aforementioned lifelong reader. With me, as always, is Jacob Licklider, the aforementioned newbie.
What if, say, hypothetically, that we were discriminated against for being a Midwestern conservative?
Jacob, no, I fucking hate you. Why did you choose that? Why did you choose that?
I had to.
Oh my god! And also joining us for our episode covering the third volume of New Teen Titans by Marv Wolfman and George Perez, we have returning guest Andrew from when we did Volume 2.
Hey, I'm back, and I hate Jacob, Midwest conservative.
A Midwestern conservative. You know what? We're not even gonna do any prep for this. Let's get into our first Twitter question.
Okay, that's not even what's this about? No.
We'll get into that afterwards. But I really want to talk about this one. Jamie at Jamie_season7 says, "What do you think of this iconic quote?" Which is something I'm sure we'll have a long discussion about later. But he posted a picture of the panel from one of the issues in this collection of Wally West saying, "Maybe because I knew our politics were always different. Look, I don't put you down for being liberals. Why attack me for being a Midwestern conservative?" Jacob?
So, okay, I knew this was coming at some point.
Did you know it was in this volume?
I didn't know it was in this volume.
Okay.
I didn't know it was in this volume. Because we've made a meme of this quote, which... Okay. It's quite funny because a lot of my notes on the first issue of this collection are like, Wally West is kind of a mood. And then that happens. And I'm like,
yeah,
not so much a mood anymore. I mean, okay.
Nope.
I get it. Like, it makes sense for Wally to be a Midwestern conservative because he comes from a rich white family. Like,
I guess. Sort of. Like, but he also has this personality for one issue.
This is true. This is true.
I don't know.
I mean, part of me guesses that Marv Wolfman and George Perez probably really didn't know many Midwestern conservatives.
Fair enough. But yeah, I guess let's actually get into our non-spoiler discussion now. So this is a bit of a different collection than the previous two we've covered. Because I believe it as because what Len Wein does the introduction for this collection.
Len Wein does the introduction.
He talks a bit about how the series was really picking up steam at this point, and Wolfman and Perez were very aware that the series had a lot of traction. So this volume, I think, specifically with the Tales of the Teen Titans miniseries that takes place at the end here, really has a lot to do with refamiliarizing ourselves with the characters, having a better handle on our characters, but not quite doing much for the team as a whole, I feel.
I think I agree, but also I think it's utterly fascinating. So, because going in, I was kind of expecting something akin to Dream Country.
Yeah, and I remember you telling me that.
And that's kind of, for those who don't know, the third volume of The Sandman is all basically one-off stories. Some very important one-off stories, but one-off stories. And that, I think that going in with that attitude really works. But also having this 4-issue miniseries, would never happen. It feels like something that would just never happen in comics today, right?
I mean, to a series that has gained this much traction and for something just to retell the stories of those characters, not really. Not when nowadays publishing companies can just say, okay, well, here's a republishing of one of those previous issues that that tells the origin of this character, or could just say, here's a collection or here's a digital copy. It wouldn't really happen today.
Also, the miniseries does some big expansion on all of the characters, especially more than just the flashbacks in the issues could do, or even really would do, especially the last one with Starfire.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Can't wait to talk about that in spoilers. But actually, speaking on some of the individual stories and expansions that this collection does, Andrew, I believe you were slightly a fresh face to this collection as well. I don't think you'd read every issue that we're covering today, right? Before?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've only read the Beast Boy one, so it was really cool to read them in the full context of the whole camping trip and everyone spilling their guts to each other. It was pretty neat.
Yeah, it's a really interesting like framing device. Obviously a lot of the meat of those stories happen within those individual issues, but I'm assuming you had also read the main issues of the title before, 17 through 20.
Yeah. Yeah, I have.
Yeah. Interestingly though, because the Tales of the Teen Titans miniseries focuses on um Cyborg, Beast Boy, Raven, and Starfire. A lot of those early issues are actually focused around Kid Flash, which I find really interesting. Not always for the best, but a lot of them are focused around Kid Flash, who is a character that I think had we commented about it on the podcast before. Like he took a bit of a back seat in those first 2 volumes. I feel.
Oh, I mean, he really didn't get much focus, which is funny because Wally West is a character that I know has big fans.
Yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah. But yeah. So I think that's speaking of Wally West fans. I guess let's get into our next couple Twitter questions. First off, an actual reply to the first one that Jamie submitted about the Midwestern conservative line. Our friend Kian at Kian the Quark says, as a Wally West stan, this did not happen. It did happen. It didn't stick, but it did happen.
And Crisis on Infinite Earths wrote it out of existence.
Yeah.
Specifically that pen.
Well, also, Kian actually just followed that up by saying, actually inspired by the Heroes in Crisis retcon, Reverse Flash told him to say that, which I will absolutely accept. And also because of that, Kian, I never want to hear you complain about Heroes in Crisis again. So there's that. Kian also
is
says,
Heroes in Crisis that bad?
Honestly, I've never read it. I never read the thing in its entirety. I've read a bunch of the tie-ins because of the titles I was reading at the time, but I never actually read the main event, oddly enough.
So what you're saying is we get Kian on to do a very special episode on Heroes in Crisis.
Yes.
Forcing us to read it.
Absolutely, yeah. Kian also says, jokingly, of course, the good old days, where media was not political. Anyway, imagine conservative Wally West written in by post-9/11 Miller. Jacob.
Well,
could you imagine?
I mean, I'd imagine it would be fairly similar to the way post 9/11 Miller writes Barry Allen in Dark Knight Strikes Again.
That's true. That's true. You know what though? Barry's, I think, one of the characters that makes it out the most unscathed of the Leaguers that Miller writes in that story.
Not that high of a compliment considering the material.
It's not. But I thought I'd mention it. Getting into our next couple Twitter questions, our friend Marcus at Sir Jedi Sentinel says, when there's trouble, do you know who to call?
No, I don't actually.
Ghostbusters, right?
Ghostbusters.
Great minds. And then our last set of Twitter questions comes from our friend Mason at the GD256. His first question is, why are they new? Did the old ones perish? I don't think any of them were actually dead at this point in comics history, as far as the old ones go. But I don't know. I guess they didn't perish. It's just a new team.
I mean, it's also a new book, which, okay. Yeah. Like, can we agree that the titling it The New Teen Titans is such an 80s comics thing to call it? Like,
not quite, because there was I think 2014, 2015. I don't want to say 14 actually, thinking about it. There was a 2014 title after the first New 52 Suicide Squad book was canceled, called New Suicide Squad, and it's a thing we still do today, actually.
But that's gonna age so poorly.
Absolutely, it already has. There have already been like 3 Suicide Squad books after that new Suicide Squad books, so.
And there have been countless Titan books.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think this titling for Titans was bandwagoning off the all new, all different X-Men at the time.
That's true. That's probably true.
Yeah.
Very good point. I'd actually not considered that. Mason also says, name 2 good things about Teen Titans Go. I can name a number of good things about Teen Titans Go. First off, Teen Titans Go to the movies. Awesome film. I really love that. Like, unironically. I think it's great. Also, just sometimes there's genuinely great humor in it. I also loved the recent Zack Snyder bit that they did. I don't know if anyone here saw that. I thought that was awesome. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of stuff to like there. Obviously, it's not anything compared to the original cartoon, but I like it. It's fine. You know, I don't think it's worth hating personally.
You see, Mason. Here's the issue, my dear friend Mason. I'm speaking directly to you now. I've never seen Teen Titans Go.
Andrew, have you ever seen Teen Titans Go?
I've seen bits and pieces. I'm not a huge fan.
Yeah, fair enough.
We
To
should
each their
make
own.
Jacob watch the whole thing and do a bonus episode on
We
it.
should. Aren't there like over 100 episodes, or
I
are
think
there
there's
more
over
than?
400.
Is it 400? No,
Like
no
400
way.
individual segments. Yeah, I believe so.
What? That is insane.
That's a lot.
Oh my god. Okay, we really should watch all of this, Jacob. If nothing else, watch Teen Titans Go
12-hour
to the
episode
movies.
one.
Yeah, watch Teen Titans Go to the movies. It's a really great film. I enjoy it. Let's see. Then Mason says, rank the Titans in order of how good they would drive a car.
So I've actually been thinking about this because, of course, I have. I have a feeling Starfire probably the worst driver because she flies.
That's true.
And she's, not from Earth. And, but, Raven probably slightly better. Actually, no. Right above Starfire, Beast Boy. He's too chaotic. He's probably going to get into a bunch of crashes. Raven, slightly better. No. I keep wanting to put Raven next. I think Wally would be under that because Wally also doesn't drive.
Well, it's got to be all these people that are like unfamiliar with driving. So Starfire, Beast Boy, Wally, Raven. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. All at the bottom. Raven probably okay. She has a calm head. She would probably do fine.
Yeah, if anything else, she'd figure it out really fast.
Yeah. Above her, Vic and Donna, because they probably both went through driver's ed. And at the top, probably Dick, because he has a Robin motorcycle.
I'd say Cyborg would be the best.
That's true. He could interface with the car.
Yeah. I hate that this question has actually spawned a discussion. I hate you, Mason. And then lastly, Mason says, extra DLC bonus question that you may have answered, but I don't remember. I may be wrong but the title to me implies that the characters are teenagers. How then do you feel about the sexualized drawings of some of the characters? So that's the interesting thing about this team, is that none of them are actually teenagers at this point, right? I don't think any of them are.
They're all
Corey and Donna are supposed to be 19 or so.
Yeah. So
yeah.
It really is just like because the original book was named the Teen Titans, they just kept the name, and why they eventually changed it to just the Titans. So,
but that didn't happen until
it's a while. Yeah, it's a
that happened in I think the early 90s, right?
Late 80s, but yeah.
Late 80s because it was New Titans by the time Lonely Place of Dying came around. So late 80s, nearly a decade. Of calling them teenagers.
Yeah. Which is a little misleading, but whatever. All right. Anything else to add for non-spoilers? Before we get into our spoiler section.
I will say, continuing to be solid. I think by now you sort of have this great baseline quality if you know what you're gonna get. As well as the fact that it's a shame none of the individual stories on their own, I think, are remembered as well as the big one that happens down the line, being Judas Contract.
Yeah, and actually, we're not terribly far away from that actually at this point.
Yeah, we're what? We would be if
they start setting it up towards the end of the next volume. So volume 5 would be where it actually happens. In these collections that we're reading.
Well, I think doesn't Judas Contract happen in volume 7?
Yeah, but the Judas show in issue 30.
You're right. Okay, I'm misremembering something. I'm thinking of a different story that happens within volume 5. But yeah, you're right. Sorry about that.
Would that be started the setup of the Judas Contracts?
I mean, one could argue that the entirety of the early New Titans issues leading up until Judas Contract are setting up Judas Contract.
Yeah, but this is where we introduce our actual Judas figure.
Yeah, definitely.
Because I know who the Judas figure is. I watched the TV show growing up.
Yeah.
Actually,
have you ever seen the entirety of it? I'm not sure.
The show?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. That would be fun to do a bonus episode on.
Yeah, that would be a fun bonus.
Let's remedy that.
Yeah, right, definitely. And then we get to watch Titans, the live action show. Which
oh boy.
Hey, it looks terribly fun.
I will say that. I haven't watched season 4 yet, but it is incredibly fun. Yeah, honestly, there are some portions of it that make the entire ride worth it. So anyway, all right, I guess let's get into our spoiler section now. I'm very excited to do this. because this first issue, New Teen Titans number 17, is absolutely insane. Did anyone else think that? I thought this was insane.
Yeah.
Are any of these issues particularly sane?
I mean, the Tales issues I think are fairly laid back for the most part.
Okay, the Tales issues are kind of laid back.
Yeah,
but like all four of these go to like some insane places. They're all four of them are essentially done in ones. The fourth has a great backup story that's like what 5 pages long, but it's hilarious.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. Yeah, but getting right into our very Kid Flash focused stories here. This is The Possessing of Francis Kane, and it's about Wally going to school. We go to his what is it called, Blue Valley College. We meet up with this girl that he knows named Francis Kane, and there's something wrong in her home life.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this is first off, Wally West being late to school using his speed powers to run to school in costume and do a quick change. Didn't need to do a quick change. And then being terribly awkward with Francis Kane is hilarious. This is all the first page. But then you have this idea of, her mom is still acting crazy ever since the accident. We are turning into a soap opera for an issue.
Oh my God. I love this one in particular. It is off the wall insane. I love it.
So they go to this. They go to her house, and they find her.
Her mom's in the middle of a seance, sitting in the middle of a pentagram, surrounded by candles.
I have it written in my notes that Wolfman and Perez really like creepy women in robes because that's like a recurring theme in a lot of their stuff.
You're right. It's
yeah.
It's also fun because the Satanic Panic around D&D. This is 1982. The Satanic Panic probably would have been starting to be a thing by this point.
Yeah.
Which is just, I find that hilarious. Also, because this is a DC universe, actual psychic powers happen. And, the seance basically does your classic poltergeist activity of lamps start to fly. So Wally runs around, makes his hands into tornadoes and vortexes to save everybody. Also, Frances joins in on the ritual. And
she's expected to, I guess.
Which, okay. If it isn't obvious, her father and brother are dead.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not going to be the one to say people don't grieve. People, should shouldn't grieve in their own way. But
after the seance is broken, Frances's mother starts berating her and telling her that she should have died instead of them. And this is something that happens a couple times throughout the issue, and it really takes you back, I think.
Yeah. Also, George Perez can really draw a creepy old woman.
Yeah.
I mean that
it looks like Paula Deen.
She kind of does.
Wow. This is the plot, right?
Yeah.
That we're dealing with a possession. Wally's an idiot.
Yes, he is.
This is, and I think this might be why people like him. So he goes to Raven. Perfectly good thought. Bring in Raven to help. Raven has psychic powers. Raven might be, and Raven has connections to what the Kanes would call demonic, but let's extra dimensional demon entity that is her father. But Wally doesn't think of a cover story for why he knows Raven of the Teen Titans.
It makes for some really fun interactions here. They don't last long enough, in my opinion. But
this is not a criticism. This is endearing me far more to Wally West. Because some superheroes should just be complete idiots who, are trying their best, but are kind of dumbasses.
Yeah.
But Jacob, you're forgetting the best part. He's like, I've got to help Francis. And then it's like 1 week later. And he's like, here's Raven.
That's true.
It's like, Wally, you are the fastest kid alive. You could get her in like a snap. Maybe wait a day at most to be like, I'll make some phone calls. But a whole week. Also, I should say, Perez's backgrounds in this issue in particular,
they're very detailed.
But they're like surreally detailed in a lot of places.
Oh, yeah.
Like, there are some places where you think, oh, it could just be like a void. Nope. You get like you get like these nice sort of concentric circles representing the psychic powers. That classic like crackle for Raven's powers. Adrian Roy's coloring gets to go to some interesting things, especially as it turns out that Francis. So Francis needs some sort of help, and Raven can't help, but her mother is just insistent of she is evil, and the forces that possess her demand her death. She should have died with the others, and this is her punishment for living. This old woman, I don't know what it is, but I love her.
I don't know if I love her, but she is one of the funniest things about the issue, though. I love it.
Also, we split this issue up into chapters.
Yeah, we go into chapter 2, The Devil Within Her. Which, again, it says 2 weeks pass. Like, what? Why is this not a more pressing issue for these guys?
Hey. At least. Wait, no, hang on. It feels like they could easily say, oh, we sent her to Star Labs and they started examining her for 2 weeks. But then you have Cyborg being like, she's possessed? Those things only happen in cheap movies, implying that this is the first time the team is being alerted to all of this.
Yeah. Like, why? What did they do in the meantime? Also, how did Wally get Raven to go along with not telling anybody about it? If this is the case. Like, what?
Maybe Raven was mad. Maybe Raven was still kind of sad from messing with Wally's head way back in Volume 1, with all the making Wally fall in love with her, so they would get the team together in the weird madness or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, and okay, so like clearly the possession is some sort of psychic powers.
Yeah, it sort of like freaks out again. It destroys a bunch of the lab. Everybody works to fight it off.
There's a great one page of this, like, the panels physically breaking.
Yeah, it's really fun. I love that.
And we don't, like, we have her mother completely forsaken her and leave
and
her.
She tries to go after her with like a I don't know what that is. Is that like a scalpel or something?
It's a scalpel. Oh
my god.
I want to know, okay, Star Labs 1, why do you let the mother in the operation room?
Right?
Like, also, they said they were doing brain scans. Why are there scalpels within easy reach?
Don't know. But that, so she forsakes Francis. She leaves. We go into chapter 3, the summoning of question mark. Oh my god, I love it. They're running more tests on Francis.
We find out that Francis, like, because Wally's a dumbass, she just knows that Wally West is Kid Flash. And I really like the scientific approach to all of this, despite the fact that, like, everyone in this room knows the supernatural does in fact exist.
Yeah.
And we get, like, we get to find out, actually, a really sad backstory for this character that their car was just run off the road on the side of a mountain one day, and her father and her brother died.
And also, that's a fiery explosion. She was in that car. How did she not die?
Her psychic powers protected her.
Exactly.
Her latent psychic powers protected her. Like, that is just, like, really sad. And it's clear probably what she needs. Like anyone and any metahuman exhibiting psychic powers after trauma probably just needs some therapy, like grief counseling. That'll clear it right up, but obviously her mother's not helping.
No.
Like,
so they so once again they're like probing into her mind again. The entity within her sort of breaks out. I love the way Perez draws this. It's just this mix of it seems formless, but it has like a shape with all these like little like red circles within it. Just a really cool image. I love it. It sort of like breaks out. It starts terrorizing the city. It's like ripping up like buildings and cars and everything. The Titans go over to stop it as like debris is flying everywhere. Beast Boy turns into a T-Rex, which to like in order to stop the debris and cars from flying everywhere. But again, you're sending cars, probably with people in them, towards a T-Rex, which is probably not the wisest idea.
See, what this is Dungeons and Dragons Druid rules. He gains extra hit points as a T-Rex, and they revert when he returns back.
Makes sense. Well, no, I'm saying you're probably killing the people in the cars by sending them towards a T-Rex.
I mean, that's very probable. Also, the cruise ship. He gets an entire cruise ship flung at him that he has to catch.
Yeah. Eventually, Cyborg becomes the hero of this story, as Francis is unable to like control the powers exuding from her. He wraps his hands around her, sort of like controls it, causing the demon thing to dissipate, I guess. I suppose.
So what this is we're gonna have a lesson in wave physics. So like he's running interference on the psychic waves, so they cancel so it's at the same frequency that the magnetic psychic waves cancel each other out, and that's what makes the I mean, okay. Technically, yes. That's how waves work, sort of. Through kind of a sci-fi lens. About half the physics is right. I'm also not a physicist. I'm a chemist. So, like...
Anyway. So we go into our two epilogues that end out the issue then. Francis is leaving. She says goodbye to Wally. And actually a pretty sad scene. I really like this one. And then in epilogue 2, we see that this was... What's up?
Oh, I hate his design, his costume.
Oh, it's terrible. Yeah. We see this was all the doings of Dr. Polaris. And
I'm imagining this is an established DC villain.
Yes, very loosely established. And he'll come back, just not at all in this collection. I love it.
Why is he flaunting his bare legs?
They're magnificent.
You can say they're magnetic.
But yeah, that was that. I guess moving into New Teen Titans number 18. So, this is the one.
This is it.
This is it.
Yeah, Midwestern conservative time.
But also, more interestingly,
a character we've actually seen before on the podcast.
Yeah. Because you demanded it. The return of the original Starfire.
Yeah. But yeah, we've actually seen this character before on the podcast on our Suicide Squad episodes. It's actually escaping me. Which one was it? Volume 1 or 2? I can't remember.
I think it was Volume 2.
I want to say that sounds right.
Yeah.
I'm not entirely sure though, to be honest. He was there though. He was there. Anyway, this is A Pretty Girl is Like a Malady?
Malady.
Thank you.
It's a pun on malady with a Y. You see, though, that Wolfman and Perez, they love their puns.
That they do. A lot of comic writers of the time loved their puns.
Yes. Okay. So the last issue was like Exorcist style poltergeist horror movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one turns into Cold War era political thriller. Like, no transition, just possession style horror movie issue to political thriller issue. And I find that fascinating if you're reading this month to month.
Yes.
And it's not a bad thing, because I find it interesting that so Starfire is a Russian hero.
Mm-hmm.
And Wolfman could have done basically really made him the villain of this issue.
Mm-hmm.
And he doesn't.
Yeah.
He makes him sympathetic. If anyone sort of, I guess, the villain or is perhaps deserves to be knocked down a peg, it's our good Midwestern conservative Wally West.
Yes.
Which I imagine that has to be why the Midwestern conservative stuff comes up, right? Because, like, Wolfman...
Well, I mean, it's... I always read it. I mean, it's Wolfman and Perez trying to, like, first off, some political diversity into the team, which I guess... Well, first off, is a little unfair, because clearly the rest of the team is entirely made up of left-leaning characters. But also, I think it's an odd stance to make. If you want someone here to sort of call out, or at least to like be the instigator of a conversation about the political stances of our characters, shouldn't you like choose someone who is like unfamiliar with the political landscape that these characters would be on? Someone like maybe Starfire? Like, I think that would make
sense. True.
Like, rather than totally changing everything we know about Wally West for a single issue. Like, it's really weird.
I mean, yeah, perhaps. I mean, it doesn't... I find it really fascinating that Starfire and Starfire don't have, like, any scenes together either.
Yeah, they don't even really, like, call much attention to the fact that it's the same name. And I feel like they should have, because clearly
except on the cover.
Because clearly this is a gimmick issue. They're like, okay, well let's get this character back, and haha, we have someone else named Starfire right now. Okay, isn't that funny? But like, they don't actually do anything with it in the issue.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's actually get into it. So we meet our Malady. She gets a file from what's this guy's name? Do we know this guy's name?
I don't remember.
No, but she gets this file, and there's a green glow around her hand, and he implies that he has just killed her or something. And
I wrote down that we're doing the Green Death, because that turns out we kind of are, just without the maggots.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
and then what is with this title and the time jumps? Another week passes, apparently.
At least now she needs, the idea is that she is going, this guy is, the leader is Russian. Malady is also Russian. And is going to be sent to deliver these to their operative in New York. And like, I imagine maybe arranging travel is going to take some time.
I guess.
I think it's mainly so Malady can do some radiation poisoning to other people, so we can actually have the conflict. I have in air quotes. Yeah. So that's why
because we go over to a week later, and Robin and Wonder Girl are meeting up with King Faraday. Now, is this the same Faraday from our Suicide Squad reading?
Yes.
I was gonna say yeah, it should be, yeah.
I checked.
Which is pretty great. I don't know. I love that. 2 Suicide Squad connections in this one issue.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if Ostrander saw this issue and maybe had some idea of.
Oh, this issue reminds me a lot of our like political Suicide Squad issues that we read.
Most definitely.
just with honestly, I mean, years pass. Ostrander's a little bit more politically aware than Wolfman, I would say. So there's a bit more tact in those issues, but it's still great here. I still like it. But yeah, Faraday delivers a file on the original Starfire, and it lets them know what he's up to now. That he's apparently actually like working with the Russians now, and yeah, I don't know, it's cool. Actually, I like the way that Perez redraws like this. It draws like this flashback to the old Titans with Dick, Donna, Garth, Wally, and Starfire. It's cool.
Yeah,
I just like
surprisingly no Speedy. I thought there'd be a Speedy.
I'm not sure if there was. I never actually read the original issue that they're.
I think he was an on and off again member.
That's fair. I really like he makes the flashback. He makes them look like time has actually passed, and Perez does it like really subtly for like, for you know, for Dick and Wally, but with Donna, Perez just gives her a different hairstyle, and it works and makes
it does. Yeah.
I mean, he makes all three of them physically smaller, like in terms of perspective, ever so slightly, and that also that does the trick, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah.
It probably helps that Donna had a different costume.
Are you familiar at all with the original Aqualad, Garth?
I know that he exists.
Fair enough.
And I know he was in the Teen Titans show with a really cool design.
Right. That's right, he was. I forgot about that. He had like the all blue costume. Right?
Yeah.
That was really cool, actually. I forgot about that. I gotta rewatch that show. Anyway, yeah, we learn about all this, and we have a meeting amongst the Titans here. This is where we first get our hints of what Wolfman is doing with Wally in this issue, and luck. I haven't read the original issue that they're referencing here, where they first met Starfire, but I sincerely doubt that there was any hint in that of Wally mistrusting Starfire.
Well, I also doubt, because this Starfire as a character, the way he's presented in the flashbacks, at least to me, reads kind of like, you know, like Wolfman is trying to pull a Chekhov in Star Trek, right? With bringing in a Russian character at a time where mistrust of Russian people because of the Cold War would be at an all-time high. So just seeing them as normal.
Mm-hmm.
So
So having Wally mistrust him here, I think, is really, really odd. I don't know. I just really hate the way Wally's characterized throughout this whole issue. Otherwise, I really like the issue. It's fine. Just Wally is not okay.
Wally also just kind of becomes a mouthpiece for Reagan, right?
Yeah,
like that's what he's doing. Yeah. He's calling Starfire's people his people, bringing out atrocities that Russia pulled in the Middle East. Well, everyone else is kind of trying to lighten the mood. In a very interesting way.
Meanwhile, we get told of Malady. That's
Malady.
Anyway,
remember the name is a pun. Wolfman loves fun.
It is, yes. We see that like she's been like spreading her green glow infection amongst everybody that she goes to. People are slowly dying of it. She, for the most part, is fine, I guess. We haven't really caught up with her much at this point. But we
it's implied at least here that she doesn't realize she's spreading radiation poisoning.
And that makes sense. Like she was never aware of what she was doing by going out on this journey. But yeah, I also just like the little like bubbles when they show her like passing it off to somebody and it just says like contact next to each one. I think it's funny.
Anyway. If we want to get another Doctor Who reference in,
contact. But yeah, which actually that's especially funny because your profile picture is from the Three Doctors, Andrew. So.
Oh yeah.
From that exact scene, I believe.
Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, we spy on Starfire then via
Wally once again being kind of like, don't go near him, Raven, because he's the enemy. Like, I don't know, Wally. Like, they make Wally such a dick. Also, I don't think they actually like. The big problem is we haven't shown any of Wally West's like conservative beliefs, really.
Not up to this point in the series, not at any point after the series that I could think of personally.
So it feels like they needed someone for balance of some sort, and they chose him. And like, I think what could have been more interesting is they still could have kept him on the left, but like, he could have still been at least a little distrusting, and he would have to learn.
Like use it as a learning moment rather than because like Wally doesn't actually change his opinion by the end of the issue,
which is kind of which is a shame because like he should.
Well, I mean, I think it's left kind of open because it ends with him in shock as to like what he learns later on.
Yeah, that's true.
But
then we don't actually get like much follow up with Wally himself in the next.
We don't see
in the
like,
next
the actual
issue.
Like, change.
We kind of do in issue 20, but not necessarily. That's just more of an introspective issue that I have that I think is also really, really interesting. But we'll get to that when we get to it. But yeah. So we find that the original Starfire
he's going after. Do we know at this point that he's going after Malady?
Yes. But the Titans, obviously, because this is what we call in the business dramatic irony. The audience, aka us, is privy to the information that Malady is spreading radiation poisoning and not working with Starfire. Is working on her own. We don't quite know that Starfire is, the big twist of the issue, which is actually, I think, it's kind of a satisfying twist. Bit obvious in hindsight, but like, it's a perfectly good twist. Whereas the Titans, are just like, they must be working together because they're both Russians. And Wally just like is aggressive, like more aggressive than we've ever seen him.
Oh yeah.
And it's like it's literally just the basis of this guy is a Russian and presumably working for the Russian government, so I must be extra aggressive.
Yeah, because they have like Starfire like captured at this point. Wally is the one like pretty much interrogating him. Starfire like jumps out of the original Starfire, jumps out of the building, he jumps into the water. They can't find him apparently, which is funny. Meanwhile, Malady is not looking too well. She's starting to noticeably age. It seems she seems very weak. She's sick. She passes this infection off to a doctor and his assistant. Meanwhile, like I said, we couldn't find Starfire, so Beast Boy comes back to the tower, and this is where we get it. I already read it out, but I just want to read it again because it's fucking hilarious. Donna says, "Why are you so down on him, Wally? I've never heard you speak like this." Wally says, "Maybe because I knew our politics were always different. Look, I don't put you down for being liberals. Why attack me for being a Midwestern conservative? It's fucking ridiculous."
Also, and like he's callous because at this point they know about the radiation sickness. Like, so Wally West just made into a huge dick, making it about himself, where it's like, hey, this woman who may be our enemy is also very sick. Things are probably more complicated. Our friend isn't telling us anything because someone was being way too aggressive. Wally West, like, it's a weird decision that doesn't work. But yeah, Starfire finds Malady.
he was sent here to kill her, or at least make sure that she dies. The Titans come here to stop it. There's a fight that breaks out between them and the original Starfire. Oh my god! Another horrible Wally West line. Starfire says she has to die. Show her the mercy she deserves. To which Wally says, mercy, my god, did you people show mercy in Hungary or Czechoslovakia, in Afghanistan or Poland? Don't be a lousy hypocrite. Your country gives you orders and you're just dying to obey them, no matter who has to suffer.
My question here is Wolfman confusing the Russians with the Nazis?
I don't know. I really don't. It seems like it.
I mean, it sounds...
it sounds kind of like it, yeah.
Okay, it could be because, the Russian army in World War II did in fact commit atrocities. That's historical record. War is complicated, and sometimes the good guys aren't always the good guys. Who'd have thought? But, I don't know. This just feels really weird and really badly handled.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Raven is trying to help Malady, to no avail. We eventually do stop Starfire, the original Starfire, and we find out that there's pretty much nothing you can do for Malady at this point. She dies by the end of the issue, and we find out that she that in the end that she was engaged to the original Starfire, and that they were meant to be married. On the day that she died was the day they were supposed to be married, and everyone's really shocked by this. Wally especially is shocked by this, and Starfire leaves. That's the end of that, and it is a really impactful ending, I do think.
It's a great ending. I'm actually kind of sad that we don't get an immediate follow-up to it.
Yeah. That said, though, the next issue is super fun.
Yeah, the next issue is very fun.
Yeah, it's a really great one. Going into New Teen Titans number 19, it's a really great time. We start off in winter. We see what Vic is up to here. He's still hanging out with what's her name, Sarah? Yeah, Sarah.
Yes.
And,
well, here's the thing. He's not hanging out with Sarah. He is racked with guilt. And so, because Sarah was kidnapped by our good friend the Terminator, aka Deathstroke. I love that they refer to Deathstroke as the Terminator, and I can imagine that will stop the moment the Terminator is released in 84?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be gone.
He's Deathstroke. He's always been Deathstroke. Never anything else to that name, just Deathstroke.
Nope. That's like the Hellblazer thing. The reason it's called Hellblazer because Hellraiser was recently released, and they had originally wanted to call it Hellraiser. So.
Oh god, that would have been because that started in 88?
Yeah.
Once again,
or 87, I think.
So the same year.
Yeah.
The first Hellraiser was released. That names are funny sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, he's hanging around here. He's beating himself up over this. Okay, but we got to get into the meat of this issue, which I absolutely love. Dr. Light has been put in prison, and he finds out that everyone's fawning over the Riddler and how great he is as a villain, and Dr. Light gets pissed off over this. I just think that's just a really funny setup. I don't know. I love that.
So, okay. Also, Dr. Light thinks his power is second only to Green Lantern.
Yes. I mean, he's got not similar powers, but he's a strong-ish villain.
No, he has.
Yeah, but he's not smart enough to use them right.
Thank you, Andrew. His strength doesn't help when he has a tiny fraction of intelligence and is just kind of an idiot. Also, we find out that one Carter Hall is taking some artifacts from India for an exhibition in Washington, D.C.
I know what we had a small Hawkman appearance in Trinity War.
Yes,
have we read anything beyond that?
There were also some cameos, I believe, in John's Green Lantern with Rebirth specifically.
Ah, yes. Okay. Yep.
Or possibly Sinestro Corps because of the the League's involvement in that. But we haven't. Hawkman's a character I'm actually not all that familiar with.
Well, if you would actually continue watching Justice League the Animated Series, like you said you were going to.
Yeah, this is also true. This is true.
He gets a whole arc to himself towards the end of the show. So
well, maybe I'll have to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I will have to do that because that's going to be a bonus episode.
It is.
But yes. So Dr. Light vanishes into the light bulb. And we find out this guard, this prison guard, this ineffectual prison guard. This is the second escape. The first one being Mirror Master.
All you got to do is keep mirrors away from him. It really shouldn't be that hard.
Is it mirrors or reflective surfaces?
Probably reflective surfaces too.
Because reflective surfaces make that quite more like that makes that infinitely harder.
Yeah.
Because like hypothetically, anyone with glasses cannot be around Mirror Master.
Yeah.
Can be reflective surfaces. Light bulbs, possibly reflective surfaces if there were those clear light bulbs. Though this is the 80s, so I doubt they're those clear light bulbs.
Indeed. But Dr. Light gets out. He decides to go steal something.
He decides
his uniform dry cleaned.
Yes.
It's all cleaned and pressed.
I'm curious. What do you think? Do you think there's a villain's dry cleaners that like a speakeasy just on the down low caters to villain costumes?
No, I think he's just dumb and he's like, I'll have these dry cleaned. They'll never find out who I am.
Isn't his name also Light?
Arthur Light.
Arthur Light. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I love it.
I love that. So if the last one was political thriller, the one before that was horror. This is just kind of a farce, like screwball comedy farce.
Oh yeah. It's really fun. We get to our title page then after we meet up with Carter Hall. It's called The Light Fantastic, which I think is just fun. We get a nice little scene between Donna and Corey here that I really enjoy. Just gets reflecting on the end of Volume 2. Yeah, which is really nice.
And then we also have Raven isolating herself, and Dick not really being able to be the glue that holds the team together like he should be. Because at this point, everyone's starting to deal with their own, I guess, angst. It's not like edgy angst, but just like regular youngish adult angst of being a superhero and having to deal with the responsibilities that come with that.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Dr. Light breaks into this museum. Carter Hall is there at the same time. He transforms into Hawkman. And
it's the funny bit. The funny thing about this is Carter Hall is in charge of the exhibit.
Yeah.
Dr. Light could not have picked a worse crime to try to commit.
So funny. It just makes it funnier than it was before. I love it. So a fight breaks out between the two of them. Dr. Light awakens these. What are these things? What are they actually? I forget.
They're like Indian artifacts from India. I think they're supposed to represent Hindu deities. However, Hinduism is a faith that I am not at all really all that familiar with. So
yeah, I'm not.
I am sure these portrayals are not the best.
Probably.
From the little bit that I know.
Yeah. But whatever. It makes us some fun monsters, I guess.
And I love that when he does it, he gets this nervous look on his face. It's on page 12, and he's like, hi there, I freed you. That should make you my slaves, shouldn't it? I don't like that look in their eyes.
Yes.
How dumb.
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
Is Dr. Light just Elon Musk? Feels like he's just Elon Musk, but a supervillain.
Yes. See, there are probably better comic book villain equivalents for Elon Musk, but that's a pretty good one for right now. Anyway, so these monsters start going after Dr. Light. The Titans, Dr. Light the Titans are awakened by Dr. Light, who goes to them for help. He wants them to protect him from these monsters that have awoken. And I just love this. I love seeing just like Dr. Light for like how pathetic he is here. It's just really fun.
What's funny is he blasts his way into Titan's tower. He doesn't think like, I'm a supervillain. Maybe I should just ring the doorbell and say it under like a white flag. No, I'm just gonna blast in like I'm attacking the place, and then be surprised when I get my ass handed to me.
Yeah. Yeah. So they do eventually, of course, decide to help him. Most of the rest of this issue from this point is just a fight scene between the Titans and these beasts.
Well, my favorite line is when Light's confronting them, and Wally's like, "Forget it, Light. You'd sell out your own mother for a nickel." And Light goes, "No, I wouldn't. Not for a nickel."
He has some standards.
It's so good. I love it. Yeah, just a really great time. Perez gets a lot of really great moments to shine in this fight scene here. That closes out most of the issue. Also, Hawkman doesn't get that much to do until the very end.
It's kind of a shame that like Hawkman doesn't like interact that much with the Titans.
Well, that's how a lot of like these like guests, these like cover guest stars for like comics would work back in the days. Is they would have just like some really small appearances here, but they would advertise them everywhere on the cover.
Yeah, I mean, if I had to guess, it's probably because like the title was getting big, so like, ooh, we can use this to promote another character.
Or get readers of that character maybe interested, or get them into like something, a new title that just started for him. I'm not sure what Hawkman would have had going for him at the time, honestly. But yeah,
maybe something new was going out. But yeah.
Anyway, but yeah. So actually, we meet up with Hawkman at the end here. We use was it Starfire utilizes these. What are these things that she gets?
They
what are those little like silvery ball things? I forget.
They're like lenses.
Okay, I swear I know I read through these really fast recently. So.
They are lenses because somehow Dr. Light's light brought the statues to life.
And so
that's the explanation we get.
Starfire like reverses this, I guess.
Well, because she has light powers, or like she has sun energy powers.
Sure.
Yes.
And this turns the beasts to stone, and they crumble, and they are a pile of rubble at the end. And that is that. We get to our epilogues here. I love this last scene with Dr. Light. Dr. Light like hears about how Batman captured the Riddler again, and Dr. Light's like, maybe this wasn't such a bad day after all. Kind of funny.
As if Dr. Light had anything to do with the Riddler being caught.
Yeah. And then in our second epilogue, Sarah goes to see Terry, Donna's boyfriend.
Fiance.
Yes, you know what I meant. And then we're not going to follow up on that at all, really, until later in the series. But yeah, there's that. Moving into
to be fair, the New Teen Titans as a title kept going after issue 20 monthly. While the Tales issues were
for now, we're not going to see that for a while, Jacob. So apologies. Moving into our last regular issue of the collection, though, New Teen Titans number 20. This is Dear Mom and Dad, which is a really interesting issue structure-wise that I really enjoy. Wally's writing a letter to his parents from back home, or from college, and it was just a really cool issue. I don't know, I like this.
What I think is actually kind of interesting about this issue, and Wally in particular, is kind of the relationship between Wally and the never seen so far Barry Allen. Just because like for our other characters who are sidekicks, right? For Dick and Donna, they're both directly connected, right? To Batman and Wonder Woman. They're both essentially adopted. They're essentially the children of the heroes, their sidekicks too. Where Wally isn't he like a cousin to Barry?
He's a nephew by marriage.
So he's a nephew by marriage. So that's
he's Iris's nephew.
Yeah. So, and if I don't know when Iris and Barry got married, if they're not married at this point, not even related. He's just a fanboy. And I think that's really interesting because like Wally on the team is kind of the one who feels as a character who feels like he doesn't quite know his place. And there is a place for him. And this is sort of an issue trying to explore it. Which I really like. This is a really sweet issue.
Yeah. I'm not a huge fan of like the actual like story within the framing device, to be honest, though. It's a fairly basic chase story about the Titans versus this guy called the Disruptor. And it's, I don't know, there's not much to it, in my opinion. I don't know. I love the framing device of the issue, but it's there's not much beyond that, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's nice that it allows Wally to get a chance to shine, and we see things through his eyes. Especially since, one, it's also just nice to see the Titans like working together on sort of a case that would like take time and not just be one drawn out action sequence. Like you have Beast Boy being sort of knocked down by the Disruptor, who has the Disruptor also has a very interesting design that's kind of reminiscent of the Flash. Like,
yeah, I mean, it's red and yellow, but I'm not sure if the design is actually like Flash-esque.
Maybe, but like, I don't know. I think I see red and yellow and I think Flash.
It kind of reminds me of Tara's initial costume when she's introduced, like her pre-Titans outfit.
Yeah, I get that. But yeah, we get some other nice flashbacks within this framing device too, though. We get a flashback to Cyborg's birthday, which is nice. Beast Boy is transformed into a monkey, which is funny.
In a clown costume.
Yep. We get a nice little scene between Donna and Terry at one point.
I love this moment of Cyborg just being like not loving that they're having a party. We also get confirmation that Cyborg is now 19. So yeah, all of these characters are above are at least, I think Cyborg's meant to, or is
they're all at least legally adults.
Yes.
Yeah.
Beast Boy's 16, I think.
Oh, is he?
Yeah.
Huh.
I think they mentioned that his issue.
That's funny because he's one of the characters in this team with like the most history in the DC universe. Huh.
Yeah.
But he's only 16. I mean, and Victor gets this gift from Sarah and the kids that he has not been spending time with when he probably should. And this is all seen through the eyes of Wally West.
Yeah.
Which makes it for interesting framing. Because it sometimes feels like Wally is the most unsure of the characters.
Yeah. And like it's interesting. If memory serves, he's one of the he's one of the characters that gets like the least amount of time on the team itself. Because post Crisis he's obviously off doing Flash things.
Yeah.
And he was off the team already at that point. So he's I guess for like there's like a reason that like he was taken off the team, because like he does feel the most out of place here, I guess, despite being an original Titan himself.
I mean, it also just feels like as a character, Wolfman and Perez want to give him an arc of growing up of some sort and finding himself, because he is able to investigate on his own throughout this issue. He he finds out who the Disruptor is working for. He finds out that it's connected to the Hive, and he finds out, and he goes in alone and gets hurt for it, but eventually is able to rely on his friends, and realize that he is in fact loved, while the Disruptor as a character is only out to try to get his dad to join the Hive, which is sort of the big reveal. An interesting reveal for a villain.
Yeah.
Kind of a shame that it's on kind of a boring villain.
Yeah.
But the last But the last couple pages of sort of the story itself are really nice, where that's revealed in prison, and Wally finishes up his letter, and he decides to deliver it in person to his parents.
Yeah, it's nice.
It's sweet.
But then, we get a little 5-page backup story at the end of issue 20 here, called A Titanic Tale of Titan's Tomfoolery, which is just an absolute treasure. Wolfman and Perez decide to write a story about the two of them. And it's really great.
A mad scientist in the DC universe called Igor Igorovich.
It's so good. Oh my god. I'm sure there are people that really hate this story. I don't know. I can't imagine not loving it, though.
I mean, it knows exactly what it's trying to be.
Yeah.
It's good enough to not overstay its welcome, too.
Yeah. At 5 pages, it's really not overstaying its welcome at all. But
So Igor Igorovich and his henchman Boris transport themselves to the mythical world called Earth Prime, where poor Marv Wolfman in his red and blue and terrible glasses is doomed because he's run out of Titans ideas. I haven't had a good dream about them in weeks.
So do you guys know what that line's a reference to?
I'm not sure, actually.
In the Flash, the classic Silver Age stuff, it's revealed that DC writers have dreams, and that's where the Golden Age came from, because the Earths were interconnecting through like a dream realm. So that's a really neat callback there.
Oh, right, because Barry's origin is he was a fanboy of the comic character The Flash.
Yeah.
And then you have, Romeo Tanghal being annoyed about having to ink all of these backgrounds, and George Perez just being annoyed, and Len Wein wrapped up in his panda best friend called Fluffy.
It's absolutely lovely, and such a fun look into the DC offices at the time. I don't know, I love that. And just seemingly, at least, what a great working relationship these guys all had.
What's especially great is that in the introduction to this collection, Len Wein specifically says, I never had a bear called Fluffy. I don't even quite like stuffed bears, but you get them as a gift once, and suddenly that's your thing. So I'm like, sure, Len, sure.
Oh, I love it. It's so good.
Yeah. So Marv and George are transported into the DC universe.
They meet the Titans. They help stop Igor.
And this is very meta. Because when the fight starts, there's a page with no backgrounds, and there's a note written in to Romeo. I figured you needed a panel to rest. Take 10. Signed, GP.
So good. And I also love that. I mean, first off, we've shown a lot of great respect for George Perez on this podcast. In the year and a half we've been doing this, I love that George is painted as the hero of the Teen Titans book at the time. I love this whole thing. I love the note the issue ends on with George picking up Marv and dragging him into the office and says, "Don't worry, guys, I'll make sure his story works as usual."
It's also because a certain Marv Wolfman is, as we've confirmed, very fucking horny.
It's true.
He is horny.
I'm sure Perez wasn't completely innocent at the same time.
I mean, that's true, but Marv is the one that comes across as horny here. And they get transported back to the DC offices, and in waltzes Karen Berger. Marv, George, you're late on your next Titan story. which
Oh, it's so good. I just what a lovely little story. I love it so much. Anyway, all right. Honestly, I don't think it'll take us too long to close out these last 4 issues. Because a lot of them are things we already know. To be fair, but
I will say
this
it's
first one might take us a
interesting.
little bit.
It's interesting how they're all sort of expansions on things we know, and I think
Yeah.
all of the things that are added have an interesting place. I have some issues with this first one, mainly because
Okay, we're gonna get into this. So this is Tales of the Teen Titans #1, Cyborg. So okay. Let's talk about the framing device of this story. So the Tales of the Teen Titans miniseries is the team decides to go out, take a vacation. They're camping out out in what is it? Are we at the Grand Canyon?
In the Grand Canyon.
Yeah,
They're
it's
in Arizona.
Yeah. And so they go out here. They're all hanging out around the campfire, and they all decide to tell stories of who they are and where they came from and what their life is all about. And we do this for the characters that odds are people reading at the time are the least familiar with, which are 3 like brand new characters: Cyborg, Raven, and Starfire. And then Beast Boy for some reason, which I'm not quite sure why he's included.
That's probably because like Doom Patrol was like probably not as popular of a title. Because that's where he originates in, right? It's Doom Patrol, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, so he's the one who's probably needed the most time, I guess. Also probably because they wanted a 4th, which makes sense. I'd also argue, because Batman, the Flash, and Wonder Woman are such strong titles, you don't need. Everyone knows who Robin, Wonder Girl, and Kid Flash basically are at this point.
Yeah, exactly. I do wonder why, if that's the case, it couldn't just be a 3-issue miniseries then.
Maybe just because of the way things in the schedule worked out. You'll also notice with all of these, it's a different inker on each issue, which I think is. I mean, it's obviously so Romeo Tanghal can focus his efforts on just the New Teen Titans title proper, because.
But also, once again, as Len Wein points out in the introduction to this collection, to do these 4 issues in addition to the regular issues they were working on at the same time, Wolfman and Perez, especially Perez, must have been running themselves ragged on this.
Oh, definitely. Well, and Perez was, correct me if I'm wrong, he was still also working for Marvel at the time on the Avengers. He was still doing
some Marvel stuff at the time, yeah.
Which
is why, I mean, even early on in the series, we called it out a couple times when Perez isn't on the art in some of the early issues.
Yeah. And what's also interesting is I have noticed Perez's art kind of evolve, especially by the time we get to this volume.
Yeah. Well, also because we've done his Wonder Woman stuff before too. You can see how it's definitely changed by then.
All improving. Not trying to say his earlier stuff is bad.
Oh no, honestly, he's one of those artists that just continually got better throughout his career.
Yeah.
I think.
I love this framing device. I love this framing device.
It's really nice. Nice to see. I mean, we get a lot of scenes throughout the main title as it is of a lot of these characters just being teenagers, or not teenagers, I guess, but just being friends, having fun together.
But this is one where they're throughout this, the framing device has no danger.
Yeah, they are just hanging out, telling stories, having fun. Well, having fun if most of these stories didn't involve horrible and traumatic events.
Yes.
But speaking of, let's get into our first one. This is Cyborg's story. So we know most of this already. We know the accident that led Vic to become Cyborg. But we get into to start off with, we get into his actual life as a teenager, in high school at first. Which I find really interesting. His relationship with his parents, his relationship with his friends at school, just really interesting to see.
The fact that he was homeschooled for a while and that made him an outcast. The fact that he was basically allowed on the streets in New York and made friends with people on the streets, which is very sweet to have to have Cyborg Victor Stone just try to have a life outside of his parents.
Yeah.
All until he basically is arrested, caught looting a grocery store. And his well-to-do parents can find that, just that it breaks their heart. And this is what eventually allows him to go to an actual public school for much of his adolescence, and where he takes to athletics and gets into sports. And I really find Silas Stone being such a bastard fascinating.
Yeah. Because interestingly, when we saw Silas previously in this run, he had already kind of gone through a lot of his redemption arc when we first met him. That he was already trying to be a better father for Vic at that point, but seeing where Vic's anger, I would argue righteous anger, comes from in his early relationship with his father, is fascinating to see, I think.
Yeah, and he's so.
Let's get into it, because I know you have issues with where this plot goes.
So it's the way Wolfman is and Perez's art is kind of portraying Victor's friends, mainly subtly with things in the background like a poster towards Black Power, which is making these connections towards sort of the Black liberation movement of the late 60s and early 70s. Which
is interesting, because I'm not quite sure if that necessarily means that Wolfman and Perez are holding those opinions themselves.
See, that's where I'm not sure. I don't love,
because these characters are very much in the wrong. These are not positive role models. These characters are explicitly here to not be good influences on Vic.
Well, yeah, but that was sort of that was slowly also becoming sort of a thing in the 80s, particularly with sort of just in the culture at large, with the mythologizing of Martin Luther King and the ideals of nonviolence sort of being pushed, which is kind of a complicated subject, because
I think in this case, though, you balance it out by having Vic here as a positive role model.
Perhaps. I don't like where it eventually leads to, of eventually portraying sort of Vic's friend as just wants to get back at white people. I don't think that works.
But again, his friend, I think, is so explicitly in the wrong that I think Wolfman and Perez are taking a very clear stance on this. I don't think it's quite as problematic as you're painting it to be.
Yeah, I feel like both Vic and the friend are there to be examples of like blind rage and letting negative things that have impacted them paint their perspective of people in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree, Andrew.
Perhaps, but
I totally I see where you're coming from with this, Jacob. It makes sense. But I think
I should be supposed. I'm not trying to say Marv Wolfman is a racist.
No,
no. I should make that clear, because some people say if you try to criticize, so there's people say if you bring up that word problematic in any sort of context, people jump to the worst things like, no, things aren't ages. People have their biases, and sometimes it doesn't work. I will say,
I think it does work here personally, but again, I understand where you're coming from. But go on.
Sorry. I like the rage. I love actually the rehabilitation scenes when, because it's something that we obviously never really saw in Volume 1, right? When we were doing that big focus on Victor and Silas Stone's relationship. But like the immediate horror reaction to basically being experimented on by your father. Yeah, like, yes, Silas was in the wrong. It technically, like, was using a duty of care, but also did not obviously have Victor's consent to have be part of an experimental procedure.
I think this issue especially, I found it interesting when we get to the actual like transformation scene where Victor like wakes up and he's a cyborg. I think that this issue especially is where when Jeff Johns was reimagining the character for the New 52 and for the Justice League, I think this is where he pulled a lot of his inspiration for Vic's relationship with Silas and where Vic is coming from as a character. I think you could see some of that here. Personally,
you definitely can. I also really want to praise, especially for his work on page 16 and 18, the inks by Brett Breeding.
Yeah.
So Brett Breeding we covered with the Death of Superman. He did a lot of the inks there. As an inker, he is really good at sort of making it dynamic. In a very specific way. Because Victor's initial rehabilitation is genuine horror. And I kind of wish we had even more time to sort of examine that, because it ends up becoming a one-page montage for at least the initial rehabilitation. And that page is actually really well done. It conveys a lot, and conveys a lot of struggle that as a disabled person myself, I really do sympathize with. Also, certain aspects of comics Twitter, yes, Victor Stone is a disabled character. Just having a prosthetic means you're not. Just because you get a prosthetic doesn't mean you're suddenly not disabled.
Do people argue that?
Oh, I saw some takes over the weekend because of the new Cyborg series. It took everything in me not to jump in annoyance because of my own disability.
Yeah. I mean, you can. You have every right to.
Yeah. It was just trying to say, oh, the cybernetic prosthetics means he's no longer disabled, and it's like, no,
right,
that's
not how that works. I have to read the new Cyborg series, apparently. All right.
No, this was someone trying responding to the promotion about it, because apparently the Cyborg series is going to tackle like the disability aspect somehow, which kind of makes me want to read it too, just out of curiosity.
Speaking of, if you haven't been watching Fresh Face One Shots, you should do
that. Yes.
More on that later. Anyway, let's close this out. We're coming up on the end of this issue. Vic meets back up with his friend. I'm blanking on this character's name.
Ron.
Ron. What a guy. Ron. And I don't know. We get this nice confrontation between the two of them at the end, which I find really, really interesting. And that's sort of where we close out the issue. It ends in this big, really nice climax where they try to get like Vic in on this like job to work with them, and Vic stops him in the end. It's a really nice moment. I really like it.
To blow up a building, and Vic tries to save them both, but he stop the bomb and save him, but he can't. A lot
of these issues end on real fucking downer notes. Anyway,
real downers.
On to Tale of the Teen Titans #2, Raven, with easily my favorite cover of the 4. It's such a great cover. I love it. All right, let's get into this. So this is the one, interestingly, that I think is probably the most redundant, despite being one of the best ones here.
Because like Raven had such a large part.
Yeah, she's the focal point of the whole first arc of the comic. Like, we know pretty much all of this already before we get into it.
There are a couple of nice additions that get fleshed out early on, and I have a feeling Wolfman maybe at this point wanted to soften some of the origin just a little bit in the way that it plays
because that original origin goes really hard.
It goes really hard, and I think even for 1980 that didn't age well. That particular aspect playing into a trope involving sexual assault.
It's still a great basis for a character.
Yeah,
Raven's origin is phenomenal for a reason.
It's just kind of softened subtly here in subtle ways to make it. I don't want to say better, but almost hurt just a little less. At least to the reader in that way. I also love that in the framing. So, because they're spending a couple of days camping.
Yeah, I like that we kind of flip the framing to us. It's not just Raven telling a story. Like, she wakes up from a nightmare about her father, and everyone's like asking her about it, and that's our segue into the flashbacks. Really, really smart stuff. I love that. There's also a really poorly framed panel at the bottom of page 5 here. Just really, really poorly framed. I just
All 3 of these bottom panels are a bit goofy.
I mean, but especially the one with Trigon, or Red Trigon, I should say.
Red Trigon.
That's
yeah. It looks there's no depth to it. Like
no,
because like his eye.
I mean, look, as a page, it's a 7-panel page. The page following it is 10 panels. Perez had a lot of work on his hand. I understand, but
that doesn't make it not funny.
Exactly. Anyway, so yeah, so we get into the origin. It's what we know, but it's really, really cool to see. I don't know. I like the way Wolfman and Perez really delve into this. It's really nice.
What's interesting though is the the Azarath stuff being really expanded quite well.
Yeah, that's what we get here. Is yeah, we have a lot of expansion on that.
Obviously, it's a big question of fate, of like taking fate control your outcome, or is it something else? So you have, because like we see quite a bit of stuff before Raven is born.
Yeah, which is really, because again, we've already pretty much fully fleshed out Raven's backstory. It's almost about the only way you can go with telling this story, is telling a bunch of stories about her mom instead.
And her mom is an interesting character.
Yeah, she becomes a lot more of a character here, which is really what this issue is focusing in on.
Especially sort of in the way that Azarath also reacts to one of the sort of priests taking baby Raven and wanting to throw her through doors into limbo.
Yeah.
So I don't know when hell was established in the DC universe with like Lucifer.
I honestly, I'm not sure.
I know it was a thing like by the time Hellblazer and the Sandman started, because like but I wouldn't be surprised.
Well, maybe it was because it's a thing by the very early days of Hellblazer, and that predated Sandman. But I'm not sure if it predated Hellblazer, to be honest. It probably did.
Possibly did. Because I like the idea.
Because I don't think Alan Moore ever did outright hell in Swamp Thing. Maybe?
Very possible. Maybe.
So, I've read the whole run, I swear. But
well, yeah, I haven't read it at all.
Well, we will one day.
So. Yes. But Raven as a baby is going to be thrown through these doors into limbo. And this causes divine intervention, essentially. So like Raven as a child is then trained to control herself by Azar the goddess, which I don't know. I find the cosmic scale fascinating.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting because Andrew, you mentioned sort of in our chat about the sort of fantasy side, and it's this issue in the Starfighter that do a really nice science fantasy, like, because you still have, mainly in the Starfire issue, this idea of a scientific and logical society, but these very fantastical elements.
I mean, you can really see like in the kind of world building that Wolfman and Perez do in a lot of these early years Titans issues, how an immediately post-crisis DC universe really modeled itself after what Wolfman and Perez were doing in this book.
Yeah. I mean, and it works. Like Wolfman and Perez, I don't want to say like DC of the 70s and pre-crisis 80s was bad. I mean, because I've really only read this, and a little bit of Denny O'Neil and Neil Adams on Batman.
Yes,
but it's you can very much see not so much a casting off of like the earlier 50s and 60s Silver Age storytelling, but a reconciliation of going to some of those silly places, but also taking things seriously in a very nice mix. Which is kind of what a lot of this volume really represents, if you think about it.
Yeah, totally.
But yeah, this story ends with Trigon coming to her as a daughter, which we got before. It sort of picks back up after her training with the origin that we know and the sad death of Azar and
we get on what page was it on? I think it was on 20. Yeah, on 20. Probably like my favorite Perez drawing of Trigon ever.
Oh yeah,
that's such a great like big panel there. I love that.
And the way the panel's split, right? Like helps create this sense of scale and power without like showing him in his entirety.
Yeah, I also like that. I also like that a lot of those panels when we're in the flashbacks aren't like sharp edge panels. They're like rounded out, which I think is kind of cool.
Yeah, I think that potentially could be Pablo Marcos on inks.
Oh yeah, probably.
Because the just like don't, or no, it might be Perez because it's I just flip back and it is in the Cyborg issue too. So
okay,
so it's a consistent thing.
Yeah. Anyway, I guess moving into Tales of the Teen Titans #3, The Changeling. I also love this cover a lot too. I love the big family portrait behind Changeling in that.
So many characters. So many.
Also, I know we've established it before in the podcast. I refuse to call him Changeling. I don't know.
Oh, my notes kept calling him Beast Boy or Gar. Like,
yeah,
I get why they wanted to change the name, because the Teen Titans are all growing up,
and I guess calling him Beast Boy is what, too childish or something.
It's a bit childish.
But like nobody today in like modern DC calls him Changeling,
No, they call him Beast Boy.
What was that, Andrew?
Oh, I said it's because it's a lame name.
It's true, absolutely, yeah. Just anyway, that said, though, considering how heavy these first 2 issues were of Tales, this is a very fun issue. Most of it, at least.
There's this running joke that so it feels weird because I know Beast Boy as a vegetarian.
Oh yeah.
However, that's not a thing yet. It makes sense that he's a vegetarian because he's been most of those animals. Probably doesn't want to eat them. But so this is like the 3rd night that they're camping and they're having a weenie roast. And Gar keeps burning his wieners to a cinder and ruining them.
And because he keeps talking for too long and he's not watching and he's focused on himself too much. There's also another really great running gag throughout this as he's telling his story where he's just telling it one way and we actually see the flashback and it's completely different because Gar is just a compulsive liar.
Well, I'd also argue that because the story itself is kind of traumatic for Garfield Logan.
Well, yeah, exactly. It comes off as more a defense mechanism.
Yeah, and it's just really smart storytelling where this issue just credits Wolfman as the writer. I can imagine Perez being way too busy at this point with penciling everything that he's penciling to necessarily be plotting the rest of these issues. But
also, I love this spread on pages 5 and 6.
It's
with just the transition from the Doom Patrol into the Titans. It's so nice.
So nice. I want to read Doom Patrol someday. We
can totally read Doom Patrol someday. Yeah. Honestly though, I haven't read much Doom Patrol, to be honest. So I'd have a really hard time, at least where I'm at right now, guiding you.
Well, you get on reading at least the Morrison run, and then we'll eventually do that.
I know. I do need to read the Morrison stuff, and I can't remember the other writer that I wanted to read stuff by.
Probably Rachel Pollack.
Yes. Yeah, that's it.
Because she was the immediate follow-up to Morrison.
Yeah, her, and then, but I am currently reading Unstoppable Doom Patrol by Dennis Culver, and that's been really good. So anyway,
yes.
anyway, getting back into it. Yeah, for the most part, this is like a pretty fun issue though. We get into like what Gar did like immediately like post getting powers and like post Doom Patrol and all that. Him as an actor, which I think is really funny. Because yeah, he could be easily utilized as an actor because he can turn into anything.
This also just fits what from my limited experience with Doom Patrol, the vibe of weird that
totally
made Doom Patrol work, unlike the Doom Patrol appearance in the Suicide Squad that did not go with the weird vibe.
Yeah, Doom Patrol is very weird. Also, you should watch the Doom Patrol show, which is fantastic.
I should. Joey, we have mentioned several shows that I need to watch or be watching.
So many, Jacob, and we haven't done a bonus episode in a while. Well, other than Harley Quinn, I guess.
This is true.
Yeah, but Harley Quinn, you'd already watched most of. So
yes.
Anyway, get on Justice League, get on Jessica Jones, come on, just fucking do it. Anyway, but yeah, no, just really fun stuff. Yeah.
Oh, also, the hot dog joke keeps escalating because it's initially just one hot dog, then it's a bunch of hot dogs, then it's multiple sticks. Like,
it's lovely. I love it.
It's also what's interesting is all of these issues kind of deal with identity in some very interesting way, and how some innate feature of at least the first three characters that we covered, not quite as much with Starfire because Starfire isn't really an outcast, makes the characters an outcast from their family, from society, from everyone else. Like Beast Boy's parents are dead, but he has a massive fortune, and he's just trying to live a life. He has a girlfriend who it's a sweet relationship, but well, she doesn't quite get fridged, but she does get damseled.
That she does.
And she said, like, I think my one criticism of this issue is that her plot doesn't resolve. Like,
yeah, it does kind of.
Why he
I mean, to be fair, I haven't read any like really early Beast Boy appearances, so I'm not sure if like that was if she's a character that shows up elsewhere or has shown up elsewhere.
Well, here's the problem: is that like her last panel is her in a cage on page 20 of the comic. Like,
that is true.
She doesn't like just within the storytelling of the issue. It's a problem that this character just gets dropped once the villain is defeated.
Yeah,
I think they do that to set her up for later issues of Teen Titans, though, because I know she comes back.
Oh, that's good to know.
Because you haven't met her yet, right?
No,
not in the main. We haven't covered anything with her on the main title, at least. No. So.
See the problem with. I mean, Andrew, you can see the problem with that though, because like.
Oh yeah, totally.
In the context of this issue,
just to be captured, basically.
We at least need to know if she survived. They aren't quite clear on that. Also, Beast Boy kind of accidentally embodies, because of his powers, the "Would you still love me if I were a worm?"
Yes, yeah,
I love that.
But yeah, that's pretty much the rest of the issue, right? Anything else big to cover in that one?
There's a lot of nice internal monologue from Gar about his anger, but he's still, being that happy child. Honestly, I think this might be my favorite issue, like with Beast Boy that we've covered so far. Just because, as a character, there are some issues where he's just kind of like teenager who objectifies women in a lot of his appearances, which is kind of a shame. But here, like, it's issues like this or the Doom Patrol issues in Volume 1 that make him or was it Volume 2? Can't remember. The earlier Doom Patrol issue, like, centric issue.
That was in Volume 2, yeah.
That make him feel alive and really good. So he gets some hot dogs in the end, because his friends they may laugh at him, incinerating several hot dogs. But Cyborg has an oven inside of him and can just cook food.
Yep.
And it's adorable.
Yeah. Anyway, let's get into the last issue here. Tales of the Teen Titans #4, Starfire.
This was my favorite, probably.
Yeah,
Well then,
it's the best
Andrew,
one.
we'll
I
let you
love
take it away.
Yeah, go ahead.
All right, so we get some of Corey flying around, showing off for the team, and then she comes on down and starts talking about her sad, tragic backstory.
I mean,
I love that.
it's
That's like that's how so many of these issues begin.
Exactly. It's redundant, but it's a good formula. It works.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's great. I mean, you don't need to like try like too hard for the framing device in this. It's really the story inside that matters. That sounds really cliche, but it's true. And it works. It's
What's on
this is
the
person-
inside that counts.
exactly. This is but no, this is honestly the first time that Wolfman and Price have ever like really dived into Corey's backstory. To see it so fully
Was this
fleshed out. here.
Blackfire's introduction too?
yes.
Yeah, yep,
He
very
has
first
not
time
shown up.
appeared
Also,
in-
Blackfire as a child. Look at those eyebrows.
She looks so fucking evil. I love it.
She's Satan's daughter. She's so
Yeah.
gross.
Jeez.
No.
She-
We literally do have Satan's daughter on this team, though.
And she doesn't look nearly as evil.
Yeah.
I will say, Blackfire looks like she's going to demand for a manager.
Yeah. Totally. Yeah. She's intergalactic Karen right here. But no, it's great. Very fun stuff. I said very fun stuff. I'm about to talk about a slavery plotline. I probably shouldn't have done that.
I mean, it takes quite a few. Oddly enough, I was surprised with how long it takes for the slavery plotline to happen.
Yeah.
It takes like 15 pages, which doesn't sound like a lot, but in a 25-page comic issue is kind of a lot.
Sure. Well, no, slavery it gets introduced a little earlier than that.
I mean,
okay. I should say they're basically grooming her for slavery.
that's true. That's true.
So there's that. But her and Blackfire, they get trained together as it is, and there's a
Blackfire murders her sister's pet.
Yep, it's pretty
Which-
horrible.
Okay, this is the second over-the-top comic villain that I have seen murder their sibling's pet as a part of their villain origin story.
Wait, what was the other one that we did?
So we didn't do it. It was a manga I started to read called JoJo's
Oh.
Bizarre Adventure,
Oh, okay.
which like it's a solid way to make you hate a villain. Just
It's
murder.
true.
Poor Caesar.
Absolutely, yeah.
Also, Baby Starfire is adorable.
She is. Yeah. But then they grow up. The planet gets enslaved, as we already mentioned, and there are some pretty horrible things implied through this one page where we sort of like flash forward through Corey growing up in slavery, and it's just, ugh, I hate it. I hate seeing it this way because I love Corey so much as a character. But
I find Corey fascinating because her compassion is like what drives her forward.
and to see all she's been through and still have that compassion in the present day. It's very
Because we eventually get the
compelling.
twist, which I like. Okay, I guess the twist was coming, just
Mhm.
on how Blackfire is set up as a character. But when it hit, it just hit so hard.
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's really good that she's been like working with these slavers, and it's just, ugh, horrible.
Especially since, like, even then, Corey has saved her ass multiple times. And her revenge just hurts.
Side tangent as we're starting to close out this issue. I think it started hailing outside my house. Can you hear that?
I cannot, but that
Okay, so
that
that's
is
good at least. But
that's
it's getting really loud. So I'm kind of glad we're starting to close this out.
wonderful.
Yeah, I don't know why it's hailing. What the fuck?
Oh, the weather has been weird. It was snowing
This is late
weekend.
April. We're recording this in late April. Anyway, but of course in the end, both Corey and Blackfire are well, Blackfire's betrayed, but Corey was always enslaved. But yeah, Corey escapes She wants to save Blackfire. She ends up getting attacked anyway. Has to leave her there, and she has not seen her sister since, and it's very sad.
It's very
Um,
sad.
And,
I wonder if that's going to be set up for anything coming in the next volume or anything. Probably not.
Very much. I mean, both.
It's totally not going to lead to some overly long stories later.
No, not at all. But yeah, I guess that was Tales of the Teen Titans as a whole. We close out on a nice little note here between the
and a note of them all toasting with Okay, so they're all above 21 except wait, hang on.
No, they're all 19 pretty much.
Yeah.
But they're drinking alcohol.
And they're not letting Beast Boy because he's too young, but technically
he's 16. Hang on.
Wait. This is the early 80s. Was it 81, 82? Somewhere around
82.
there?
This is 82. The drinking age is still 21. So this is underage drinking is a lot. I'm kind of mad that they're all underage drinking, but they're all being responsible for Beast Boy?
Right? Also, I kind of appreciate the message that Wolfman and Perez are giving here. Wow, we all have really horrible, fucked up backstories. Let's start underage drinking. I'll
drink to that.
I'll drink to that. I'll drink to horrible, fucked up backstories. I love it. So that was New Teen Titans Volume 3. We are, if counting Tales as well, we're 24 issues into this, and I love these characters so much. I've read most of a fair bit of the run already, but I don't know, going through these characters and talking about them, it's just, I don't know, I love the team dynamic so much. You already knew that Wolfman and Perez really did something special with this run, but seeing it in action is really something else. I love it.
It and sort of the X-Men run that was going at the same time are I think would also just be fascinating to parallel, because at the same time they're kind of feeding off each other. I've seen
Claremont's X-Men had already been going for quite a few years at that point.
Yeah, but also Claremont's X-Men did a crossover with the New Teen Titans at some point.
It's true. Yeah.
Back when Marvel and DC crossovers were a thing. I think I liked Volume 2 more.
I think 1 is still my favorite, oddly enough.
I think this is my second favorite. There's some things, it'll be very interesting to see where the story is going. I have a feeling Volume 4 is going to have a bit more interconnectedness between the issues.
Yeah.
When we get to that.
Like I said, because Volume 4 is where the series really starts ramping up, in my opinion.
Yeah. But. And it's, okay, I've seen the cover for Volume 4. Obviously, they introduced Blackfire in the Tales miniseries because she's going to become a player in Volume 4.
Yeah.
That's just fairly obvious. Also, they hinted Brother Blood in Volume 4 with the end of issue 20. So that's going to be fun. I love these characters. I love that they're allowed to be, they feel young. They don't feel like old man trying to write a teenager.
No, there is just a natural youthful energy to the way that Wolfman and Perez do this.
And it might be because, Wolfman and Perez were I don't want to say they were young, but they weren't old, established, had been in the comics industry for decades at this point.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, they were still, they had a lot to offer the industry, and some could argue still do. I mean, Wolfman at least.
It also probably helps that they have Len Wein and Karen Berger as editors, who are just
absolutely. They had a wonderful creative team backing them up, and for a book that was a risk and was a chance at the time, it's great. Love to see it. Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. It really meant a lot.
Thanks for having me on.
That you wanted to come back on to talk some more Titans with us.
If we do some Titans bonus episodes, for the animated show or even the live action show, I think bringing you on for those would also be fun.
Oh yeah, I'd love to be on.
That'd be awesome.
I'll also be on when we do the Clone Saga. Wink, wink.
Yes, absolutely. But God damn it. But no. I'll totally get you to watch the live action Titan show someday. It's honestly not terrible. I mean, season 1, but 2's great. 2 I love. 3 is mostly solid. and I haven't watched 4 yet. So anyway, all right, Jacob. So I have you a bit stumped right now, don't I?
You do. Well, should we continue our tradition of having our guests guess what could be coming next as
absolutely,
well?
yeah. So okay, I'll say this. So next episode is a standalone. It is its own thing. Episode 42 is just a single book. Based on things we covered in the past. Any guesses as to what we'll be talking about next time, Andrew?
For the man who has everything?
No, unfortunately not. That'd be cool though. Jacob, what do you think?
So, initially, when I was talking to Joey, I was thinking, oh, maybe we're like continuing Green Lantern. Somehow Joey shot that down. But now you're saying it's a standalone.
Well, I didn't say it was standalone. I said it's a single book.
Oh, it's a single book. Okay.
Single volume. Yeah. I just meant that more as in like it's not like 2 books like when we did like Super Heavy and Bloom last time.
Okay, so it's a single book.
And I did also say to Andrew, based on things we've read in the past.
So wait, so is it a continuation of something?
It is.
Oh, are we continuing?
I'm gonna love it if you get it right on the first try.
Is it gonna be Aquaman?
It is, and we finished a New 52 run last time on the podcast. Let's finish our next one because it's the last volume of the Jeff Johns run. So yeah, next time on Fresh Face Comics, we'll be talking about Aquaman: Death of a King.
I was okay. I just pulled that out of nowhere. Okay,
nice job. That's really good.
I was gonna guess. I don't know. We're doing Green Arrow.
So I will say. So I told you that like our next couple episodes are like single. Like they're standalone episodes for the most part. But I will say like when I was structuring the last because we're now in like the last 10 of the 1 to 50 range. And 50 is going to be something special because it's our 50th episode, obviously. So I did sort of kind of structure a block between episodes 41 to 45, and I'm calling it continuations. As just a vague outline title for those 5 episodes. So this was continuing Teen Titans. Next time we're continuing Aquaman. So yeah.
So that makes me wonder what 43 is going to be.
Oh, because you think you know what 42 is? Sorry. 42 is next time. Duh.
Yeah, I
don't know how to fucking count.
Well, because 43 we're also having a guest on.
We are having a guest on 43.
Having a guest. Which we will announce next time who that guest is.
So that'll be cool. So yeah, just to give you an idea of our last couple episodes going up to 50. And of course that doesn't mean last couple episodes like end of the podcast or anything. We'll keep going on forever if I have anything to say about it. But no, so 41 to 45 is a loose block called continuations. They're mostly standalone episodes. 46 is truly a standalone episode. 47 through 49 is a block, and 50 is its own thing. So
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
interesting.
Yeah. All right. Well, I want to say once again, Andrew, thank you so much for coming on. It really means a lot. Just fantastic.
Yeah, I had fun. Thanks for having me on.
Of course, yeah, fantastic having you here again. As always, wherever you're listening to the podcast, be sure to leave a rating and subscribe to us wherever you're listening to us. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to subscribe to the Blood Donut Studios YouTube channel. That would mean a lot. Leave us a like, leave us a comment, leave us a review on a podcast platform if you want to. Totally up to you. I'm not your mom. Do whatever you want, I guess. But yeah. What else? As always, I'll leave our link trees down in the description below. Mine and Jacob's. You can follow us on various social media platforms and find whatever you want to find, I guess. As always, on Blood Donut Studios, we have the Star Trek videos going on.
At this point, I believe you will have just released City at the Edge of Forever, and then this upcoming weekend
we'll be finishing season 1 of TLS. Yeah, so that'll be cool. We're doing that. We are at the time of releasing this 4 seasons into Breaking Bad in the Breaking Brian series, so that's pretty awesome. And also this is our first episode we're recording since the starting releasing of fresh faced one shots. which is a little sidestep that we're doing from the podcast for current comics that are coming out. Right now, we're talking about the current Superman run that's coming out by Joshua Williamson and Jamal Campbell. There are 3 issues out of that, so there are 3 videos out for that. You can go check those out. Also, considering this is releasing in May, number 4 of Superman comes out this month, as well as the first issue of our next title that we're starting in Fresh Face One Shots, which is Batman the Brave and the Bold by Tom King and various others.
You should be looking out for that in about a week and a half, 2 weeks, I believe, from the release date of this.
So. We're recording this episode really far in advance, so it's kind of hard to like predict where all that's coming out because it's also kind of late, at least for me. I'm EST. Anyway, and then Jacob, anything else to promote? I know you have your blog and stuff.
Once again, my blog. I'm also doing Star Trek reviews with Joey. I've also getting back to my roots as sort of a Doctor Who reviewer. I've been reviewing Russell T Davies' first run as showrunner. At around this time, I should be somewhere in series 2 with starring David Tennant and Billy Piper.
Based on the way your voice rose throughout that sentence. That was great.
That's the one series I'm not looking forward to rewatching.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But yeah, I guess is that it? I guess that does it.
I think that's it.
Go us. Under 2 hours, we did it. Yes. All right.
We did it.
Yes. Haha. All right. Be sure to join us next time when we're talking about Aquaman. As always, you can buy the book New Teen Titans Volume 3 on Amazon. I'll leave that link in the description below.
Wait, what's the Aquaman volume called?
Death of a King. It is Volume 4, Death of a King. It's issues. Oh God, I don't know what issues it is. It's like I know there's a skip in it. It's like 17 through 19 and 21 to 25, I think.
What was issue 20?
Issue 20 was the backdoor pilot for a series called Aquaman and the Others.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So it's not included as part of the run. Anyway, so be sure to join us next time. As always, you can find Amazon links to the books that we covered on this episode and the book we'll be covering next time down in the description below. You can go check those out. Andrew, thank you so much for being on. It really means a lot. And I guess that about is it. Until next time, this has been Joey Morgan,
Jacob Licklider,
and Andrew.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.